Venti, Venti, Venti. If I mention his name to your mind, surely the first Archon and banner of Genshin Impact will come to you. And that is not a little joke, it has a lot of meaning. Surely you will come the Archon that today is the worst Archon, and he has seen overtaken by several characters in his same role. But above all, surely you come to the head of the Archon that he still has no second legendary mission, unlike all the other archers who have closed his arch and his history to us. Well, today we're going to talk about the two most important theories about Venti and, above all, NATLAN. They seem to want to bring us here. An arc from less to more, from tranquility to epicity, and looks that although in the early versions of all NATLAN know, Venti has come. We know that the cycle is fulfilled to always come the Archonti reruns in the first versions, and seems to be that when Venti comes, NATLAN will come prepared with an incredible amount of lore. So leave a good luck, a good video and subscribe. Leave a good comment for the algorithm. You know, it doesn't cost you anything, it's totally free. It helps the channel a lot, the whole team, to the project. Position and recommend the video. So like bell, subscribe. Thank you for observing and very invited to remember the directs as well. Okay. Welcome. First link down here. Second link down here in the description. And let's talk about the two biggest and most important theories about Venti. First of all, thank Kaitaro for making a video also talking about this kind of things and theories in L. That video is the video I think that to this day already more viewed from his channel and helped him a little to that. YouTube will help that video grow. And we are working and helping Kaitaro, and him working and helping me. And seeing that video, I commented and remembered that I also have several theories and knowledge about Venti, and I was able to complement them with L. Aside from a video you will see in the background in which Kaitaro was surely also inspired to see it. Well, the first theory about Venti bases everything, as well as a little bit of the second. Basically, this crazy phrase that we hear from Venti, and that you'll be listening around here, and that's in his dialogues that... Say something like, "Oh, hi Tabibito, we meet again, don't you remember me?" And basically here, 1,001 theories have been made about this because it is said that many people understand that maybe they saw your twin or your twin, but of course it's very easy to differentiate the genre. That's clear, and we haven't been given any kind of offer. I wink that Venti doesn't know how to differentiate men from women. Stories I told you in other videos about his deep lore that he was going to identify himself as a spirit of the wind, as feminine, but with the body of the Bard of Mondstadt, who was a very good friend of his, who fell into the war, into Mondstadt's rebellion, into the First War, that those who know of lore already know what it is. The issue of Mondstadt has nothing to do with the war of the previous Archontes or anything. It was simply an internal conflict of the city, and apart from that, it is said, and people theorize, that it is not that Venti has a problem. To separate genres, so to speak, is that basically Venti has met the Traveler, and this gives us a gigantic line. Knowledge, because here are 2 points that relate to the following two Archontes that are Zhongli and Nahida. The first is something related and theorized that what we are living is a samsara cycle. I mean, the same thing that Nahida brought us, so to speak, is actually being applied to the ongoing and main story of Genshin Impact, and we are living a samsara every 500 years in which the Archon War and the journey is repeated. Fatui, so that they can fight Celestia, and quite a Black Mirror story, and pretty Matrix, and pretty... But besides this, we have what Zhongli tells us, and Zhongli also has his share of knowledge. In this story, since as many of you remember, at the end of their second legendary mission, just above the highest point of all, the peaks of Guyun that are around here will be putting also the editors explain to us that there are people who are not of this world. And many of the people you see lore are sure that Zhongli is told descended. And here I will clarify a important thing, let's say that established by the Lord of Genshin, and backed by many of the people who do lore more important, and is that descended is commented and given the title to many people, we will say, or entities that are not supposedly of Tivat, but this has already had a much more limited meaning because they are considered, or considered better said, descents to what wasn't from Tevat but was considered Tevat, the nation that was after that, fans with the real ones with the first came to conquer and defeat the first primordial dragons who were in what was the early Tevat. That one was called Tivat then by that rule of 3 if Zhongli Morax is considered descended by being a primal dragon. That was before Tivat was Tivat to Pip would also be a primal dragon. A descent, and Nouvelet would also be a descent, and it is not so because surely we find ourselves more primordial dragons, and Nahida tells us the exact amount of descents that there is, counting not as persons prior to the creation and conquest of the continent by Celestia called Tivat, but as people who are actually descended from another world. Is supposedly your twin more told you that you weren't supposed to be from Tevat, and that's what Alice or one of the witches says, which is a descendant and fans shadows and all this. That is a super complex thing of lore and bendy. You don't know. I don't think it's a descent, but Bendy does have a power beyond the one we believe, and supposedly the theory says that all that Bendy is holding is for the sake of the plot, and in his second legendary mission we will see more in relation to that. Not only is the Archonte a Nemo but capable, has some kind of power over time as well, and that it is related with Astaroth. That those of you who know of deep prayer also know that it has enough to do with the shadows of fans or the first aid downs that came with fans' second theory. There's a text on Mondstadt that tells us literally this is the entry to Celestia. In one of the statues of the 7 of the city, and this already on base and at the start of the game is a smoke, and we give it the first heat. Literally the first city we see is Mondstadt. Not only that, but this second theory says that let's remember that Bendy explains to us in his first legendary mission one thing that has not been touched again throughout the game, and is that there are people that they can have a higher power and they can control the elements. These people are going to say that they are chosen by the Archontes to be granted their vision, and the Archontes have the agnostic granted by Celestia after the War of Anu. The Archontes to be able to control the territory of each of the 7 regions of the elements, and also Bendy to this explains that there are more people who have agnosis apart from the Archontes, and that there are people with enough power to have ascended. A Celestia is to say that metaphorically having had the power to arrive in some way is not said how and does not specify. Bendian gives us the example of a Favonius horseman, Vanessa, who besides those who follow the comic, the premature comic by Genshin, where he tells us about Koli Chiquitita and Amber Chiquitita and Dottore when he was experimenting with Koli. And this exists is one thing. Official, what happens is that Genshin games, not everyone knows this. Let's say comic manga bar, and then Vanessa is a person who has an agnosis, is not an Archon, and nothing about it has been mentioned just in some event or some text of the library. On those of Favonius about you know the 4 winds of Mondad that are there for Jean, Andrews, Vanessa, and I don't remember the other one. Not north, south, east, and west, and here comes the strong. Turns out that statue that puts here is the entrance to Celestia, and this theme that Vanessa could already ascend to Celestia. We don't know anything about her, and Bendy have this great hidden power over the first theory, and that it is also one of the few Sarkans next to Mavuika that he resists, even though it seems that literally I hit me and gives the agnostic to the lady so easily. He really has a lot more to do with that. Mondad is some sort of plan of resistance against hidden Celestia, and there are many theories that say that all that moat around and so forth is because, and here I find if the good Dendro comes, please put in for algorithm. The comments are said that because of the theme of the mills in Mondad, maybe there is a kind of mechanism for the city of Mondad could rise to be able to fight Celestia, or power, we will say, to make resistance against Celestia. Fight from you to you with that city and some kind of relationship with the venereal issue, and some kind of relationship, of course, with hell. That with that text of the statue that says here is the entrance to Celestia, and the second theory says that Venti be the first Archon we know, and be, let's say, this character, who hasn't had his second legendary mission in the plot, as it is one of the organizers of the real resistance of this whole theme to fight them, as you know. There's a lot of history and a lot of real context within Genshin's history, and without lengthening it with history and without lengthening. But the explanation basically shows that there will be a plot twist. It is noted that we all know that tell us that the abyss is bad, in quotation marks, then slowly gives foot to them to tell us that good is not so bad. The abyss really were all. The population of Cainir and Cainria just had a problem with Celestia because they could use independent energy, apart from the elementary energy of the visions, and did not revolt before the power of Celestia and punish them for sleeping them. So easy, and all this has a lot to do with it because all the Archontes noticed that less Venti instilled did there. You took it from me. The agnosis that it seems to be worth is that they are giving the agnostic voluntarily and in some way without making it public. But let's say they are clandestinely yielding their agnostic so that Tsarina or Tsaritsa can actually wage an open war against Celestia, because it treats us, try to bring us the typical duality of the good are so good, the bad are so bad. Everything, the past and the memories of people can be changed and repeated with the soul iron mine, and are not being controlled, that it is a bit. So, a reflection of the reality in the Matrix and the whole story that you've seen in a lot of movies, series, and so on and so on. Cities are represented as they are right now. Let's also say a race for being the world's first power. Shineze-yo, although Io is supposed to be represented by Celestia and race by right and political left as. There's Russian and Chinese and Japanese in the game, and some other cities that also have very important historical representation in the world as Sumeru, that is all Islamic countries, that mainly because you already know and sure have seen a lot of things in Twitter news about Palestinian Israeli oil EU. I imagine you know what it is, so be careful, because Venti's second legendary mission, and possibly Venti's second legendary mission coming in NATLAN 1, will explode the head, and it's going to start telling us things as we're close to the end of the initial story of Genshin Impact's prologue. Very strong, because the last agnosis missing from the Norse arena is that of Mavuika, and Mavuika is the one that is the only one that really he's resisting, and almost beat him up. Captain, just a little bit more this video of this Venti lore of what's going on with Venti, if it can be more than an Archonte, and what can happen and what can surprise us. Leave a good like a good net utility, subscribe, leave a comment for you to enjoy and watch the video and channel. I hope you find this.
Okay.
Oh, what can happen with Venti? Your opinion or theory about what can happen and how much expectation they are keeping by? That's all, and bye.